Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we are doing
Well, we're doing a, well, as you see by the title, it is what would my garage look like if I was Jay Leno. Now, if you don't know who that is, he is an American chat show host and has a lot of motor vehicles. Now, he's a proper petrol head. He doesn't have like just Ferraris and Bugattis. He does have Bugattis, but they're from like the 20s. He's a proper petrol head, proper car guy. And I thought, you know what? If money was no object and I was like as wealthy as him and I could have a similar setup to him with all of those cars, I wouldn't just go for Bugattis, Lambos and Ferraris. And as a video idea, I thought, you know what, let's compile a list of all the cars I would get. Now, this isn't fully confirmed because I'll probably have more than this, but I've tried to limit it as much as possible without missing any of the best ones out. So, Jack's on the job of reading them out.
Yes.
I will explain to you if you disagree and why I would own it. If you're just like sat there and you're one of the supercar snobs and think that crappy cars are bad, well, they're not. Most of the cars on there will not be what you expect.
Also, a picture should appear on screen somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, hopefully, you know, if you can't imagine what that car looks like, it should be on your screen anyway, so
the video will be separated into sections as well. You know, you can do chapters. It'll either be every car, which I doubt you can do that many, or it'll be A to Z sections. So it'll go A, B, C, D, and then you can select which one. So we'll run through. Or, in fact, I could do brand, because there'll be multiple different brands. We'll do brand, actually.
That'll be
better.
So you'll skip to what cars from certain brands, or if certain brands are in it, then just, you know, scrub across your timeline, and we'll see what's going. But yeah, okay, so
let's start off with number one.
So your first one here is the Abarth 124 Spider.
Now, here you go, picture of it here. Lovely car. Now, this is essentially it's a Fiat. And I know you don't like your Fiats.
Yeah, but I am aware of this car.
The old ones are very good, but this is one of the only modern Fiats that's actually been that good. And that's because it's not a Fiat underneath. It's the only bit of it that is a Fiat is the body and the engine, which is a 1.4 litre turbo 4-cylinder. But the actual underpinnings, the differentials, the gearbox and everything like that, all comes from, or is engineered from, parts from the brilliant Mazda MX-5, which actually will be in this list later on.
No surprise there.
Lots of them, but it's from the Mark IV, so the current generation one. The 124 Spider is sadly no longer in production because I got rid of it when Mazda upped the power on the MX-5 to 182. Well, about 100, no, actually 181 from 158. Now the Fiat was matched at 168. Well, the Abarth was at 168. So it was more powerful, but then Mazda was like, backstab, and then thought, nah, stuff it at 181, that's us having the faster car now. Well, no, Fiat pulled it out anyway, so pulling it out, so Mazda thought, you know what, we'll up some power. The only difference is the engine, so that it's a 2 litre NA, or naturally aspirated engine in the Mazda, which means you've always got power on demand, whereas you haven't in the Fiat. But what's the next one?
So shifting brand, we're then going to AC and the AC Shelby Cobra 427SC.
Right, so if you are unfamiliar with AC, they are a British car brand, and the car that comes below the Cobra should really come first, because it's basically the AC Ace. Now, that is second on underneath the AC Cobra, but we'll talk about the Ace first. We'll swap them around because it's more important if we do it that way. So the AC Ace came out in the late 50s, early 60s as a sports car. It wasn't that first. I mean, by today's standards it wasn't, but then it was pretty nippy. Low 11 seconds, 60 wise. And the Brits thought, you know, this would be a cool car. So then, as you may know, bloke called Carroll Shelby, a rest in peace legend, died a couple of years ago, well, about 8 or 9 years ago now. He decided, you know, I'm going to stick a 427 cubic inch V8 in the front of the AC Ace. Well, first off, he did the 4.7, which is a 289 cubic inch, with about 260 horsepower rapid, and then thought, stuff it, I'm going to do, when the Ford GT40 came out in 1966, that had the 427 engine. It used to have the 289. So he then thought, you know what, I'm going to stick that engine in and power the Cobra that way.
Yeah.
So it's a British car with an American engine. Now everyone says the Shelby Cobra is American. It's not. It's actually a British car because Cobra, the AC Cobra, is a British car. The Shelby is American because it's Carl Shelby's engine. So that's how it is. But the thing is, the Ace is slow and the Cobra is fast. I mean, it could do sub 4 seconds with the SC, which was the supercharged. I mean, it was nearly 500 horsepower. A car that weighed 800 kilos. Yeah. Crazy. Originals go for 250, 500 grand now between that. Replicas are always on the scene there. See them at car shows, they're never real. Oh, you know when they're real because they don't go.
Yeah, right.
Because they're too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we'll kind of wrap both ACs together.
Yeah, because they're the same car really, just with different engines.
Yeah, so then we'll move on to Alpina and the Alpina B3 bi-turbo. And we'll...
So, if you don't know who Alpina are, they are a BMW tuning company. And they get Beamers and go, let's make them faster than the actual M-powered BMWs. The B3 that we're on about is the current Gen 1, the new one, which is the better looking version of the BMW M3, which surprisingly is on this list because I like the way it looks with those big pig nostrils. You'll see pictures of that later. Now, the B3 uses not the M3's engine, but the M340i's engine, heavily tuned to about 456 horsepower top end. There's no restrictors on Alpinas. They don't do the governed 155. They throw that in the bin. So the B3 is looking at a 188 mile an hour top speed for a 4-door saloon, which is very high. And obviously it's as good as it is to drive as all 3 series. So the next one's the Big Daddy.
So then, going up, then we have the Alpina B5 bi-turbo.
Which is a heavily tuned BMW 5 Series. And this is the second fastest 4-door saloon in the world, top speed-wise. At a whopping 206 miles per hour. They've just recently updated the engine, added an extra 13 horsepower to 613, 0-16 sub 4. So about 3.4 seconds. So it's fast.
Oh,
because the M5 is stuck at 189 because it's governed at that limited. So whereas Alpinas are like, no. So pretty cool.
Then going even further up, we then have the Alpina B7 bi-turbo.
Which, as you can probably guess, is a tuned 7 Series. This is the current Gen 1, 205 mile an hour car, which, weirdly, it's less powerful and heavier and bigger than the B5, but can match its top speed. It's weird. Yeah. But it's because of how drag coefficients work. It's something to do with science, which I don't understand. They all use, the B5 and the B7 uses virtually the same engine, 4.4 litre big twin turbo V8 from BMW, straight 6 in the B3. I believe now we're going for some older ones.
Yeah, well, okay, so then we'll move on to the Alpina XB7 bi-turbo.
Oh, XB7.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a tuned Alpina X7. But not Alpina, it's a tuned BMW X7, which is a big 7-seater SUV. Now, I don't like SUVs, but I like a niche. And the thing is, niche cars are pretty cool. This is one. This is a 7-seater SUV that can go pretty much anywhere off-road as well. But it can do 180 miles an hour top speed, which is just ridiculous for a 7-seater car.
Indeed.
That weighs 2.6 tons, which is a lot. And it's fast. But I do like them because I think it's quite cool in its own sort of way. It's unnecessary and it's not a good purchase against a normal X7, but I still don't give a toss. I think it looks cool.
Yeah. So then, okay, as you're saying, I think now we'll go a bit older with the Alpina B7 E65.
Yeah, so if you know your BMW code numbers, you probably won't. You'll have to type E65 in to get the picture. It is an older version of the Alpina B7. It's just that really.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you've seen the picture.
500 horsepower, big V8. I believe it's a big, I think it's supercharged, this one, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, it is actually better looking than the old one, but than the new one. But there are even older Alpina 7 Series available, but I do like this one. I do like the E65.
Yeah. So then moving on, we've got the Alpina B8 4.6 E36.
Yep, so this was a E36 BMW 3 Series, as you would expect. But instead of the straight 6 with 3.2 litre capacity, they decided that it would be good to stick in a 4.6 litre V8 with more power than the M3. So they did. So it's, as you expect, it'll still be very fast.
No way. So then, moving on, we've then got the Alpina B12 5.7 E31.
Yep, so this is the lovely BMW 8 Series, one of the best looking German cars of all time, and the only V12 that we have seen so far with a big 5. It says 5.7, but can I just let you into a secret? It's a lie. It's a 5.6. V12, 416 brake horsepower, which is more than it obviously came out with. It's no limiters, so it can do 186 miles an hour in the car. And do it in the 90s as well, so pretty quick.
Yep. And then
change of brand.
Yep. So then we're still wrapping up. Alpina now is the
it's Alpine now.
Oh, is this oh my goodness, this is Alpine.
Yeah.
Swapping the A for an E, crikey. A110.
Yeah, so I always have a bit of a rant and say this is a glorified Renault, because it is. It's got the Megane engine, but it's mid-mounted, and a Renault gearbox, and it's designed by Renault, but it's just not listed as a Renault, but all the old Alpines were. But in fact, it is one of the best driver's cars you can currently buy on the market. The only issue I have with it is it isn't a manual, but it's a really fast, lightweight, sporty car, and it is brilliant, and it looks fabulous as well. I love the retro design. I know some people don't, but I do. I think it's fabulous.
Okay, so yeah, now shifting brands again. We're now moving on to quite a long list of Alfa Romeos.
As you would expect.
Yes, so we're going to start with the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio Verde.
Or Quadrifoglio Verde, I believe. So, essentially, it is
Italians.
it is the best looking four-door saloon currently on the market. It's one of the fastest four-door saloons on the market. It's one of the best to drive and isn't about 80 grand like the M3. So you're looking at 60 grand for a 191 mile an hour car that looks better, is faster, and way rarer and cooler than the M3 and better to drive.
Yeah.
Obviously, being an Alfa has its flaws, and that is that you can't get in and out very easily because they put the seat behind the door frame.
Yeah.
It's quite awkward to get in and out of. But other than that, and it's quite unreliable, as all Alfas are. But who gives a toss?
Yeah. So then, moving on, we've got the Alfa Romeo 156 GTA.
Yep, so following on the four-door saloon theme, I think probably one of the best looking four-door saloons of all time. Fabulous Busso V6 under the bonnet, one of the best engines ever made, one of the best sounding as well.
Yep.
247 horsepower, through the front wheels, which wasn't a good idea back then, but it still handled well. It was one of the very few front-wheel drive cars with that much power back then that handled very well. And brilliant to drive, manual gearbox, as you'd expect, big V6 at front, what you want, and the looks that you can't ask for much more on a four-door saloon. Looks fabulous, brilliant car, all round.
Yeah, okay, so then moving on, we've got the Alfa Romeo 147 GTA.
Which is very similar. Okay. Same engine, same gearbox, pretty much the same front-wheel drive system. But obviously not the same body, because this was a hot hatch. So this was a 153 mile an hour car. I don't understand, but this is smaller and lighter than the 156, but it's slightly slower. But I think it's something to do with the way the drag works. But it's still not much slower. I mean, top speed of 153 back in 2001-ish, 2002. Flipping mad. That's quick now. But I had the big Busso V6, proper manual gearbox and stuff. Fabulous to drive. Handled pretty well considering it's got that much power through the front wheels. Couldn't say more than just fabulous. I don't think it looks as good as the 156 though. It still looks fabulous. Okay.
Yeah, then moving on, we've got the Alfa Romeo 164 V6.
Yep, so a very niche car now, another one of the niches, in terms of the fact that I think it's quite a controversial design, the fact that not many people like it because they think it's just a bit boxy, but I think it's gorgeous when spec right. If you get the nice wheels with like a nice red colour or something, it looks superb, and it has the famous Alfa V6, which all Alfa V6s have been fabulous. I mean, it's quick, sounds fabulous, and goes like stink, and looks the part, which is, you can't say anything else. All Alfas are like that, nearly all of them. There's never been an ugly Alfa. Even the Alfa Romeo Arna, which was a Datsun Sunny rebadged, didn't look bad in any way.
Fair boy. So yeah, and then moving on, we've got the Alfa Romeo 75 Quadrifoglio Verde.
Yeah, so the Alfa Romeo 75, basically, with a V6. 191 horsepower-ish, so Not too bad. 2.5. But no, I believe this was the 3-litre V6. This was the introduction of the 3-litre. The Busso was the 3.2. Basically the same engine there. This brilliant car. Not the best looking Alfa in the world though. I like them, but I wouldn't say it's a beautiful Alfa. It's a good looking car, but it's not a beautiful car. But even then.
So then, we've got the Alfa Romeo Alfa Sud.
Yeah, so basically cheap, cheerful, small, family hatchback that wasn't that fast. In fact, it was very slow. Rusted itself every time it went 30 feet in the rain and wasn't as good as the Golf or the Fiesta, but just looked better and was really fun to drive. So
there we go. Then we've got the Alfa Romeo Montreal.
It's got nothing to do with the Canadian city of Montreal. Nothing to do with it. Designed by Bertone. A beautiful car. Very odd sort of pop-up headlamp design. Where it's not really pop-ups. The lights are behind like a grill. But then it goes... but very nice car. I'd have one in... It's one of the only Alphas I wouldn't have in red. I'd have it in this goldy bronze colour, but it looks superb in it. Designed by Bertone, same person I believe who designed the Miura. If they didn't, they look very similar from the side, so I think it's a little bit odd if they weren't. I mean, the door shape and the window shape is very similar. You can definitely see it in it. But good looking car, big V8. I believe it was a 2-litre V8, so it was quite a low capacity for a big engine. 200 horsepower back in the 70s, so it was rapid, and they look incredible.
Okay, so keep on Alfa Romeo, the GT-V6.
One of the best looking cars of all time. Sporty coupe with a 2.5-litre V6, one of the best sounding engines also, as well as the Busso. It actually sounds a little bit better than the Busso, because it's how it works. All I can say is, if Jeremy Clarkson owns one, and it's his daily driver, and it's his pride and joy, then it must be good.
Yes.
So that's enough said about
that. The Alfa Romeo SZ.
A very unknown car. The SZ is not known very much outside of people like me because it was made in very few numbers, because it was designed by Zagato, who are a coach building company who do like loads of different nice cars. They've done some Astons over the years, and pretty similar setup, sort of like the 75, big V6, 210 horsepower. They also did the Alfa Romeo RZ, which was a convertible version, which is even rarer than the SZ, but it doesn't look as good because it isn't a coupe. But it is still a brilliant car. I think the SZ looks sensational in real life. The only thing is, like games don't do it justice. It looks so much. One of those cars that looks a lot better in the flesh than on a racing game. So that's why in Forza it doesn't look that good. But in real life, oh my god, they're like 60 grand, which is a lot of money. But they go like stink anyway. Like modern Golf GTI quick. And they look fabulous. Better looking than a Golf, obviously.
Then coming on to the Alfa Romeo 8C Spider.
Yep, so the 8C is a very good looking car, especially the coupe, the Competizione version, which means competition in Italian, obviously. But I wouldn't have the coupe, I'd have the convertible, because firstly it's rarer. I also am a sucker for a convertible, as we all know. Like, convertibles are cool. It's no slower than the standard coupe, and it looks better. In fact, it's just genuinely filth. It looks that good. It should not be shown on television before the watershed. It is that good looking, because you will make noises to it that you should not be making, because it looks that good. And I'd have one in white. I'd have a white one.
Okay.
The next car is basically... Oh no, not the next car. The car after.
Alright, well and then we're going down to the Alfa Romeo 4C Spider,
which I would have in bright yellow, because I am weird.
No, you are,
Genuinely, no. You will search it, right? Type in Alfa Romeo 4C Spider in yellow. They look a lot better than you think. The 4C is a tiny car, though. There was one recently around here, and I saw it, and it's tiny. Like, really small. The thing is, it's very wide, though. It's wider than a Range Rover.
Wow.
For a sports car. But it's because it means it's got a really, like, it being so low and so wide, but then so short, it's got a really, really low centre of gravity, which is why it's first. Only uses a 1.7 litre turbo 4-cylinder from the Giulietta hatchback. But it's mid-mounted, it's rear-engined. Only weighs about 930 kilos, so it's rapid. One of the best sports cars to drive. Just a bit expensive, but who gives a toss if it's that good? As good as the Alpine, really. I do apologise, Alpine fans, but it's a fact of life.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to what you were referring to, the Alfa Romeo Disco Volante.
So the Disco Volante is the reason I would not own an 8C coupe, because a coach building company called Touring recently did the Disco Volante a few years ago, which is an 8C underneath, and they improved it by making it look even better. But I would have that as the coupe 8C that I would have. But this bloke bought one. I think it was in like Shanghai or something, and they're not allowed to drive a car that doesn't have the steering wheel on the correct side that they drive. But they're all left-hand drive, I think. So we couldn't drive it, and he spent about 600 grand on it with import taxes. Wow! If you took all the import taxes off, it was about 1.6 million in Chinese currency or whatever, or whatever, Shanghai currency. I don't know if they're the same place. But
I mean, if it
was it Singapore? It might be Singapore. I don't know.
Well, I know the Japanese yen it's worth. Well, there's a lot for a little.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
So it worked out that in the British currency it was about 600 grand, which is a lot more than an 8C, because you can get them second hand for about a tenth of that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so then we'll move on to the Alfa Romeo Brera V6. If I can get
the actual V6 isn't the best of the lot. It's the 4-cylinder, but the 4-cylinder is a bit slow, and the V6 is nice sounding, and bigger and cooler when you go down the pub and say, "We're driving." I've got a V6 Alpha, they're like much better than 10. I've got a 2.2 litre 4-cylinder Alpha, isn't it? Yeah. So, but yeah, they did 4-wheel drive versions, I believe. I believe they were 4-wheel drive in the UK, which means that they were rapid. Pretty cool. 256 horsepower. It was a slightly more recent version of the V6s they used, but I believe it wasn't the Busso. I don't think it was the Busso. I think it was the Fiat Chrysler group. So it was like an American V6, but it's awesome car.
Okay, so then moving on to the Alfa Romeo Spider V6.
Basically, it's the Brera without a roof.
Fair play then. I mean, yeah. Then we've got the Alfa Romeo GT V6.
So the GT Space V6. Don't get confused with the GT V6.
Oh, sorry, the GT V6.
There you go. There's also the GTV V6, which I believe is coming up.
Yes, yeah.
It's very confusing, Alfa Romeo. You sort of ran out of names. This is the Alfa Romeo GT, which is a sort of very similar car to the Brera and Spider underneath and stuff. But it's... Well, first it's very good looking, but it has the same engine. The V6, which is the V6 version.
Yeah. So then, as we mentioned then, the Alfa Romeo GT V6. No, the GTV V6.
Yeah, so the Alfa Romeo GTV with a V6 engine. Yes. I believe this was one of the last Bussos they did. So it goes like Sting, looks fabulous. Front-wheel drive as well, which I know isn't very sporty, but on Alphas they worked very well being front-wheel drive. Very good looking car as well. I do like them. I have a soft spot for those. And we're getting into the oldest now.
So now we've got the Alfa Romeo Duetta Spider.
So this is the original Alfa Romeo Spider, known as the Duetto. Not first, no V6 or anything, but it is beautiful. The way this car looks is just incredible, and they deserve every bit of love they like.
Yeah, no, it's fair play. Then we've got the Alfa Romeo Giulia, GT Alphaholic GTA 290.
Yeah, so Alphaholics, which is quite a funny name. Not funny, but funny. It's quite a nice name. It's quite a jokey one as well. Built recently a GTA Giulia from the old one from the 60s. And they shoved 240 horsepower in it in a car that weighs about 900 and something kilos. To the 290s, it's power to weight ratio.
Okay.
You get different numbers, and the more powerful than the lighter, the better power to weight ratio. Expensive. It's about the same as a Ferrari Roma. But as Chris Harris said, he would prefer that over a Roma because of how good they are to drive. No stupid electronic aids that brake for you or assist it or power steering or anything like that. Just a manual gearbox, rear drive, lightweight car with only 240 horsepower. Flipping blast to drive there. So I love them. Flipping love them.
Oh yeah.
Can I just add one more?
Go on. You can add another Alfa. It's not on the list,
right?
But
it's because of how rare they've gone.
Okay.
I will be doing a video on this very soon about hot hatches from the 80s and 90s, even the 70s that were really rare, and it's quite sad. They're near extinction. One of them being the Alfa Romeo 145 Cloverleaf. Now, I'd just like to stick that on because I think they look good as well, and I would just love one, and I'd love to save one as well if I ever had this sort of opportunity, but that's just...
Okay, well, very nice, yeah.
Right, now, we're on for another... we're not. We're on for a small brand now.
Well, yes, we've got one car here, and that is the Austin-Healey 3000.
Very good looking British sports car from the 60s. Straight six, gorgeous thing, and you can obviously see pictures of these cars as well. And... that's what to say really. Okay. One for a big one now. Yeah.
So now we've got another big list here. Getting in with the Brits, we have the starting with Aston Martin and the Aston Martin DBS Superleggera.
Just so you know, Superleggera is the Italian translation of super light, and it is neither super light or anything like that. It's nothing. It's not nowhere near super light. It weighs about 2 tons. Anyway, getting away from the point. Yep. The DBS Superleggera is essentially the new version of the DBS, which I believe comes down later as the convertible.
Yes,
and it's a 211 mile an hour Grand Tourer with back seats that you can't use unless you're a child or have no legs, and has a really bad boot and a really naff interior for a 250 grand car. But it looks superb, sounds superb, goes like stink, and I think it's one of the fastest road legal Aston Martins ever built. And I think I actually think it's the fastest mass produced Aston ever built, because they did the one to 77, but then they did 77 of them, so it's not mass produced.
Yes.
So I think it's the first mass produced Aston in the world.
Okay. Well, then we're moving on to the Aston Martin V8 Advantage.
Possibly the best looking modern car on sale. AMG V8, which is why AMG isn't that Mercedes? Yeah. Yes, it is, because Mercedes and Aston work together on engines and stuff now. It's a good idea because it means that the Astons are powered by an engine that will work.
Yes.
So, firstly, it won't break down. Secondly, it looks fabulous, and the V8 in the AMG V8 is absolutely sensational engine. Twin turbo 4 litre. So. Great engine. Yeah. Glad that's in there.
Indeed. Then we've got the Aston Martin V8 Vantage.
We've already done the V8 Vantage.
Is that what we've just done?
Yeah, next one.
Well, from here, right, Aston Martin Vanquish Zagato Shooting Brake.
A very big niche. Another niche. There'll be a lot of niches in this. We should actually do a list of the niches because it'd be quite fun. This is an Aston Martin Vanquish, which you'll know of. There's a couple more, but the Vanquish of the generation that we've just had, not the old one with the really bad gearbox. Essentially, Zagato took it and thought, you know what, we'll do this. We'll also tune it a little bit and make it a bit more interesting and stuff. We'll tune it to about 592 horsepower or something, which isn't bad. And thought, you know, let's make an estate version with 2 seats. That looks absolutely... You wouldn't think that an Aston Martin shooting brake, which is like an estate, would look good. Look at that car. It is fabulous. 199 mile an hour. Big boot, but it's only got 2 seats, obviously. And they did loads. They did the Zagato Roadster. They did a one with a roof. They put up one without a roof, like a Speedster. And they did the Coupe as well. But the shooting brake is my favourite of the lot. So, I love one.
Then the Aston Martin Lagonda Taraf.
Yeah, so very limited production first saloon called the Lagonda Taraf. Don't know what the Taraf bit means, but limited numbers, looks pretty good for saloon. As all Astons do look good though, don't they? Next.
Aston Martin DBS Volante.
Yeah, so the last generation DBS, which looks better than DBS Superleggera. Probably one of the best looking Astons ever built, actually, to be honest. I'd have the convertible, because it's a convertible. But also because it's got back seats and the manual gearbox in that is awesome. Big 5.9 litre V12. I know they say it's a 6 litre, but they've got the lie about the actual capacity. It's a 5,935cc, which is a 5.9. It's below 50, so you round it down. But they're naughty. But it's a 191 mile an hour convertible with back seats that you can sort of use big boot, GT car, but when you open the taps, it's hilarious fun. Proper manual gearbox and rear drive. I can't think of anything better than that. A car that you can use every day, but then you can get on a back road and have a load of fun in. And it's not overly powerful. I mean, 510 horsepower is a lot, but it's not that stupid amount like 800 like I have now. I mean, that DBS Superleggera's got 715. How can you use an extra 200 horsepower like that? I mean, it's just going to be a scurvy... And that's a Grand Tourer. What's the point in that? I mean, I'd have it because it's properly fast, but the DBS Volante I would buy before I got the Superleggera because it's much better car that you can use and have more fun.
Yeah. So then we've got the Aston Martin Rapide from 2009.
I believe me and Luke both agree on this. It is the best looking four-door saloon car ever built because they incorporated the DB9's design with 4 doors, 188 mile an hour car, big V12, and one of the only 4-seater Astons that actually has room in the back. Oh my god, because it has doors, whereas instead they usually put like 2 little tiny seats in that you couldn't even use. I'm like, why are you selling it as a 4-seater and a human being can't even get in the back? But one of the good ones, good 4-door cars. Yeah.
So then we've got the Aston Martin Vanquish S from 2004.
Yeah, this used to be one of my favourite cars, actually. Still is. I do like them. The gearbox is rubbish. It was crap. You could get a manual, though. Really rare, though. And that's what I'd probably do. Or swap it. Yeah. Quite an easy conversion. 200 mile an hour back in 2004 for an Aston. Very first. Good looking. Probably one of the good looking ones, like best looking Astons. But modern ones, anyway. So yeah, love that.
Right, nice. Then moving on to the Aston Martin V8 Vantage V600 from 98.
Yeah, so this is a 1998 Aston Martin with an automatic gearbox, a big V8. Actually, no, I believe it was it was a manual because they did an auto and the automatic was slower, a lot slower, with a manual gearbox and a 5.3 litre V8, which was already in production before that, but not with one supercharger, with 2.
Wow. Okay.
Producing 600 brake horsepower in 1998. Top speed of over 200 miles an hour. They never tested it. But the V550 did 186. And they knew it would do 200 miles an hour because of the drag coefficient. And did 16 under 4 seconds. Absolutely rapid car. And they're not that good looking for an Aston. But I do genuinely quite like the way they look. Really rare as well. Like really rare. But really fast as well. It's crazy. One of the first ever 200 mile an hour road legal Aston Martins.
Aston Martin DB7 Vantage.
Possibly the best looking car of all time because of how timeless it looks. 150 years, my great grandchildren will look at that car and go, flipping heck, that looks good. Because it just does. Big V12. Awesome car. Do you know Mr. Sykes, my school? Yes. He has the DB7 Vantage.
Oh, okay.
In the wrong colour, but it's still a Vantage, and that was the V12 one. I can't say more than I fucking love it. It's a gorgeous thing. Has the Aston recipe. Big V12 up front, rear drive, GT car. Looks superb. It's all you want in a car, really. We're going on to the oldies now.
We are.
Yes, we are.
With the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Zagato.
So, Zagato made a V8 Vantage look actually a little bit worse than the actual car it's based on, which is unusual for Zagato, by making it very square. But I fucking love it. I don't know why, because I shouldn't, because it's square and looks really awkward. But I love the V8 Vantage Zagato. I think it looks awesome, and it was a lot faster than the old 77 spec V8 Vantage, which is next, I believe, which is the classic Bond style one.
Yeah, so then we've got the Aston Martin V8 Vantage from 1977.
Yeah. You will all know this from James Bond. It was one of the James Bond cars. Gorgeous thing. Much better looking than the V8 Vantage Zagato, but a lot slower and a lot less modern. Because the Zagato's like near 90s. But yeah.
Okay, and then we've got the Aston Martin Lagonda.
Lagonda was a big, square, slow, unusual car, proper headlamps. A really interesting interior, dead futuristic, really cool car. That's why I like them. Very different.
Okay. Then we've got the Aston Martin Lagonda Saloon from 1974.
You'll be confused because the normal Lagonda was a saloon.
Okay, yeah.
But it wasn't. But this was genuinely called the Lagonda Saloon. Now, if you don't know what this car is, you'll see pictures of it now. It's quite an unknown one, and basically, it's the 1977 V8 Vantage with 4 doors. Yeah. So you get that look with the extra practicality. And it looks better and is faster than the standard Lagonda, but they didn't make many.
No.
So,
yeah. Then we've got the Aston Martin DBS V8.
Yes, they did lots of DBSs. Classic one. I think it's the best looking DBS they've ever built. One of my favourites. I'd have it in this sort of what I can only describe as Lamborghini Urus yellow. It was in a film in that colour. It was a film. I can't remember what it was. But it is a Bond car, but it wasn't that colour in Bond. It was in a different film with a Ferrari in it. I can't remember what it was. If you know, comment below. And it was yellow, like mustard yellow, and it was flipping beautiful. And I'd have one painted in that colour with the 5.3 litre Lagonda V8 shoved in the front, because it's rapid. So.
Okay, yeah, we're now on to Aston Martin DB6 Vantage.
Yeah, so what you will notice in a minute, as Jack's probably guessed, because it goes in DB number order.
Yes.
There is one missing.
Yes, and I'm actually quite hurt by it, I'll be quite frank with you, mate.
Because the DB6 looks much better.
Right.
And that's why I would have one.
Yes.
Because the other one, what is missing is the DB5 is overrated.
To be quite frank with you, though, I know this is my list.
I know the 5 is beautiful.
I don't think I'd get the standard 5. If money was no object, I will get the Goldfinger continuation.
The issue is you couldn't drive the Goldfinger.
I know you can't drive the Goldfinger.
£3.3 million.
Yes.
Actually, it's not that much more than normal DB5.
Exactly.
Because they go for 900 grand anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So obviously, if money's no object, I'd get the Goldfinger continuation. I know it's not road legal, but oh my god, it is a great little car. The gimmicks that you get with it.
And I think the DB5 looks superb.
Yeah.
But there's just something about that back end. I think the DB6 looks better. When you search the pictures, visually, it looks identical until you move to the rear shot, and that's it. It's just slightly better looking at the back, and that's why I'd have one over a DB5. Because it's the same engine, same gearbox, same performance figures, just in a slightly different body. It's a bit longer as well, a bit more room inside.
Okay, so then we're going to skip down to the DB4 GT.
Yeah, so the first proper DB, or David Brown, which is what DB stands for, sporty car. There was no DB3 road car, actually. It was a racing car only. But the DB4 was the first of the proper DBs that we got to know. The GT was the first one, with 302 horsepower from its 3.7 litre straight 6, increased to 4 in the DB5. Awesome looking car. I think much better looking than the DB5 as well. It's a bit smaller, and was, I believe, if I'm right, it was the fastest car in the world when it came out. Cool. Production car, mass-produced production car. I think the 300 SL, which was faster, I think that didn't count. I don't actually know, because there was lots of... The 300 SL was a bit odd, because it depended on the gear ratio. But on average, the DB4 was 150, and then some 300 SLs come out doing 161, some came out doing 140, so they took an average, and it was the fastest then in 1954, but when that came out in 59, it was faster.
So now we're just going to get the upgraded version of that, which is the Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagato.
Very similar performance, not much more power. Zagato made it look even better. And it was a racing car that wasn't that good as a racing car because it was a bit too laid back as a Grand Tourer, but it wasn't unsuccessful really. It was still pretty decent. Right, new brand.
Yes, exactly.
And this one isn't that big, so we can relax a little bit from Aston. And prepare ourselves for BMW, which is by far the biggest.
Yes, it is. So, we're going to go on to Audi now, and the Audi Sport Quattro.
What can I say? Homologation special, 300 horsepower, awesome car. One of the greats, really.
Then go on to the Audi 100 S4 4.2.
One of the early big Audi saloons. 4.2 litre V8 four-wheel drive, as you'd expect from an Audi. But sort of an unknown one because not many people will know about this car because it's a very early one of the late 80s, early 90s ones. But very cool car nonetheless.
Okay, then we've got the Audi S2 Coupe.
Yes, so the next two cars, which I believe is the S2 Coupe and the RS2 Avant, tying together because they're both based underneath on the Audi 80. They're not in any way related to the A2, which I think is a car that deserves a lot less hate than it gets. That'll be a video idea for a fun one as well. The S2 Coupe is basically 5-cylinder, 2-door, sleek coupe. Very good looking car. The RS2 is a little bit different. That was an estate. Basically very similar underneath, except from the RS2 it was tuned by Porsche. Which is why it has a Porsche badge. It says Audi, it says Porsche under the RS2 badge in letters. And they took the 5-cylinder from the Quattro pretty much and changed it to 311 horsepower. So it was a 162 mile an hour car. So it was like a Carlton sort of thing, but after Carlton. But it was sort of similar in terms of its rivals. Fast, good looking, really rare, worth an absolute fortune, and one of the all-time greats, the RS2 Avant, because it changed the world of estates and Audi for their estates for the time to come. Yeah.
So then we'll move on to the...
pretty much goes in order.
Yeah, so you said tied in the RS2 Avant. Good. So, then we've got the RS4 Avant from 2001.
Yeah, very cool car. I actually like these. The only RS4 I'd actually purchased because it's manual, mainly. The rest weren't. Not many, anyway. I am a sucker for manual, which you'll notice most of the cars on this are. But it's got my favourite engine, which I know people are like, well, the V8 is cooler, the later one, but it just didn't look as good. Whereas this did. This looked flipping awesome. I saw one a couple of months ago, and it was gorgeous. 2.7 litre twin turbo V6, 379 horsepower, plenty, really fast. 0 to 60 about 5.1 ish in 2001, very quick. Flipping love them. I think it looks really good. Next one, that we're increasing in size now.
Yes, so now we're moving up to the RS6 Avant from 2004.
Yeah, so the original RS6 Avant, because it looks better than the saloon, twin turbo V8, 444 horsepower, BHP, not HP, there's a difference. The pop-up band up there, you want to know the difference between HP and BHP. Very good car, really quick. But yeah, I love it.
Moving on to the Audi RS6 from 2009.
So, one of the very few saloon Aston Martin, Audi RS6s, right? Because not done many, and they haven't. The last two generations after that have not had a saloon. They've only had the estates. Okay. But this is a little bit different to those because they're all V8s. This was not. This had a 5-litre V10, which was sourced from the back of a Lamborghini Gallardo. Okay. Re-engineered a little bit by Audi, and then had two turbos bolted on for 572 brake horsepower, and the Gallardo, which it stole the engine from at the time, well, not at that specific time, because it was increased to 5.2 in the Gallardo, which was actually sort of an Audi engine, but never mind, we'll talk about that in a minute. The 2003-ish Gallardo with the 5-litre only had 493. So this was more powerful than a Lamborghini Gallardo, and it had 4-wheel drive, and the 0 to 60 time of 4.5 seconds was nowhere near. It was way faster than that. Crazy thing. De-restricted, which on older saloons you can do dead easy. You can just take the ECU out, throw it in the bin and stuff, and it's dead easy to take limiters off cars. It could easily hit 200 miles an hour for a 4-door Audi. And the V10 sounds like flipping gold, as all V10s do. So that's why I like that one.
Then we've got the Audi S8 from 2005.
Another V10, very different though, not twin turbocharged at all, naturally aspirated. Now, this was the first ever Audi Group vehicle to feature a 5.2 litre V10. Now everyone's like, oh my god, it's a Lamborghini engine. No, it is not. This was a heavily remodified version of the 5 litre that was found in the Gallardo. They increased the capacity themselves to 5.2, which was then transitioned back to Lamborghini. So it's an Audi engine. In the S8, obviously they didn't want 500 plus horsepower because obviously it's not designed for that. It's a luxury car, but with pretty good performance. So it had 444 horsepower, which is enough, and very good car. And it had a 5.2 litre V10, which I flipping love.
So then we've got the Audi S8 from 1996.
Best looking S8 ever built. Big V8. Decent amount of power, that's all you really need. Very rare as well now, sadly. Right, new brand, Audi's very small, and this is even smaller. So now we're moving on to Bentley and the Bentley Continental GT Speed. Yeah, that's the new one, the current one that's just come out a couple of months back. 650 horsepower, they increased it to 208 miles an hour for a Bentley. No one says that Bentley's out first. Who talks that crap?
Yeah. Then we've got the Bentley Continental GTC.
So the standard Continental, which does 207 miles an hour, which is not much less than the speed, obviously. The speed's acceleration's quicker. But has no roof. I'd have one of these in white. I'd have a white Continental GTC Speed with like a burgundy-ish coloured interior.
Okay.
Because they look awesome.
Yeah. Then we've got the Bentley Flying Spur.
Basically the same car yet again, but with 4 doors. 207. This is the fastest 4-door saloon car on the planet at the minute, top end. Yeah. I know there's some that are more powerful and some that have got better acceleration. But top speed wise, you cannot go faster in a 4-door saloon at the current, unless you tune one, obviously. Yeah. But normal mass-produced saloons, there are none that are faster. 207 miles an hour for a 4-door saloon, which is just crazy. That's just not. It's unnecessarily fast for a 4-door saloon, but the thing is, it's funny that it's a Bentley because saloons that normally do that sort of speed dead loud and they're quite rough, and you know when you're doing that. In a Bentley, it's dead quiet. It's like a flipping cruise liner. You just sat there in comfort with massage seats, and you look down at your speed. I'm doing 207. They don't also like, what the hell? It's just fucking mad, isn't it? Crazy.
So then you've got the Bentley Mulsanne Speed.
Yeah, a very, what I would call, car that isn't that good looking, but I find it quite good looking. A lot of people don't like it from the front, and I do. And I'm very old with my colour schemes, but I like different unique colours. And I want them back in yellow, which is a manufacturer yellow. Okay. But it does 190 miles an hour, and it's really fast and really cool, underrated car. And I like them.
Okay. Then you've got the Bentley Turbo R.
Yeah, unreliable, slow, classic 4-door Bentley with a turbocharged 6 3/4 litre V8. I would have one just because they're cool and rare. Other than that, unfortunately, now we're in for a long bit. We go after BMW. We go into the C's and the D's and the E's, and then we're going to the F's. And it's quite quick from now because I'll try not to talk as much about BMWs as much because it's quite self-explanatory.
We've now got BMWs starting with the BMW 135i.
Yes, so the previous generation with the rear-wheel drive one, but the pre-facelift, so about 2011, 2012ish one. Pre-facelift, 316 horsepower, straight 6 up front, rear-wheel drive for a hatchback, and a manual. Yeah. Like, very different, very cool. Next one is the older generation E87 one.
So we've got the BMW 130i E87.
So that is basically straight 6 up front, 261 horsepower at the back, which is enough. Rear wheel drive, really cool to drive. The only issue is, as all 1 Series that are rear wheel drive, the practicality in the back is non-existent because the rear differential is under the rear boot, so the boot's tiny, and the rear legroom is not a lot. But I wouldn't be used for that.
So then we've got the BMW 1M.
The 1M is known as the 1M because the car that follows is not even related to the 1 Series, but is obviously called the M1, and they couldn't call it the M1. So the 1M is basically a coupe version of the previous 2 cars. 338 horsepower from a big straight 6 rear wheel drive. Awesome car to drive. It's actually one of the best BMWs ever to drive. Just how good they are, how good they handle, and they look good as well. And really rare, and they made a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand of them.
So then we count the clock. Then we've got the BMW M1.
Mid-engine BMW's only proper mid-engine sports car. If you discount the i8, which is a hybrid, and it's not that good. This was the first, and probably will be one of the last proper mid-engine sports car BMWs. Awesome, one of the best of them as well. Gorgeous.
So then we've got the M2.
Basically the BMW 1M, but the current one. So handles as well, goes even better, looks better, and more widely available. But basically they're as good as each other. Awesome car, one of the best BMWs ever built.
So then we've got the BMW M3 G80.
Yep, so I mentioned this before, big nostril one. And I would not go for an M3 competition. I would go for the slower one, which we can't buy in the UK. Okay. So I'll get it in left-hand drive. With the manual gearbox, because the Germans think that the Americans, who are, no offence to you, but you're lazy and prefer automatics, and you're quite You are more likely to buy a manual car when that's completely the opposite, because the majority of all cars in the UK are manual anyway. So I don't know why they don't sell it, but they're just being stubborn. So I go for the manual non-competition M3. It was my personal choice. And in Paul.
So we've got the BMW 335D X-Drive F80.
One of the very few diesels. Now, I wouldn't get an M3 F80, even though they are very good, because I think it would be cooler to get a diesel that goes nearly as well. Now, it's an automatic, four-wheel drive, diesel, but it can do 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds for a diesel BMW, and it doesn't look sporty. It just looks like a normal diesel 3 Series. It looks like a 320D, or a 318D even, or a 316D. Just looks like all the other diesels. Use a set of lights in your Porsche 911, your 996 light fills, and you will get smoked by one because they are rapid. I do not know how they make them so quick, but when it came out, it was one of the fastest diesels in the world. Probably still is, actually. Pretty cool car.
Then we've got the BMW M3 E46.
Arguably the last good M3. In terms of, I saw one recently and it looked superb. Another example of a car that looks crap in games. That's actually a lot better in the flesh. Looks superb. Awesome car. Big straight six manual as well. Awesome. Flipping love them.
And then we've got the BMW M3 4-door E36.
Yeah, so I'd go for the early, like pre-94-ish 4-door version of the M3, because they facelifted it and it didn't look as good and it had more power. So I go for the less powerful 4-door version of the M3, which is like what Hammond had in a challenge with the Sierra Cosy and the 190E, both of which are in this list. And that's what I go for, because I think they're cool.
We've got the BMW 3 Series Compact E36 again.
So no specific model. I'd just go for one of the quicker ones, but I go for an E36, an earlier one, because they did an E46, which was very similar. And essentially just a squashed 3 Series.
Then we've got the BMW M3 E30.
The original, the best M3. Not the best looking either, because it's square, but the first and awesome M3.
Then we've got the BMW 323i E21.
Yep, the E21 was the first 3 Series that they ever did. And the 323 is a straight 6. And if you watch the current series of Top Gear, they did. Chris had one, his dad used to have one. And for the Dad's Car Challenge, he had it. And it was really quick, considering its age. Awesome, it sounds great, looks brilliant. And I love them, just because they're cool.
So then we've got the BMW M5 Touring E60.
Now, there are no more modern M5s than this. This is the most modern of the lot, and is by far the worst on this list of the 5 Series. But one of the only estates they've ever done was the 5 Series, M5. I think the E34 they did one as well. And this is the only V10 BMW on this list. 5-litre V10 up front, awesome engine. Gearbox in the middle was complicated and unnecessary and stupid, and it looks quite bad. But there's nothing that really, for the saloon of its day, to drive, you couldn't get better with that engine. And it was incredible. So couple that with a big boot, the estate does look better than the saloon, which is why I go for that. But yeah, awesome car. Next one's my favourite.
Yeah, then we've got the BMW M5 E39.
Yep, so the E39 is, I think, it's my favourite M5. I think it looks the best. And I think BMW peaked 80s and then dipped in 2003, which is when that went out of production. Big V8, manual gearbox, those awesome looks, love it. Good car.
And then we've got the BMW M5 E30. Did I say 4?
Yeah, E34 now.
Yes. Oh, right, so BMW M34. No, what am I on about? BMW M5 E34.
Yeah, probably the best M5. Not my favourite, but probably one of the best if you discount the E28, which is the original, which is next. Yeah, straight 6. I think it was 3.6 originally, maybe 3.5, and then they increased to 3.8. But they're brilliant cars and they look great as well. Very cool.
Then we've got the BMW M5 E28.
Yeah, the first M5, first proper one. And one of the all-time greats, obviously.
Yeah. Then I've got the BMW M535i E12.
Yes, the first 5 Series, and that was the first version that they did. So they didn't do a proper M5, but we're on to the 700.
Yes, and now we're on the BMW 750s ILE38.
Yeah, we'll talk about them together. So the E38 and the E32, basically the same car, just slightly different in generation. Big thing with 5 litres, I think, originally. I think it might have increased, but something around that. Awesome cars, dead cool luxury classics, and they look really good. The actual E38 is weird because it looks very similar to the E34, which is like a really stretched E34. It's crazy. But yeah, I like those. The next one we've already glossed over before.
So the BMW 850 CSI.
Basically, the Alpina B12 from before, but with less power. But I think probably the best looking BMW. One of the best BMWs. One of the best looking of all time German cars. So, gorgeous big V12 as well.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to the last few.
Then we've got the BMW Z1.
A niche, I will grant you that. Convertible, and had doors that didn't open as normal doors.
Yeah.
It wasn't gull wing, it wasn't scissor doors. These doors weren't proper doors actually. They're not even classed as doors. They were panels. You clicked the button, whoop, they went into the door sill, so you couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Then you got out, and then you went back up again. Awesome.
Wow.
And they are really cool. So some pictures it looks like it's got no doors, and that's because they're in the door sill. But then some pictures the doors are up. Really cool cars. I really like them. They weren't first, but they were quite light actually because they were made of fiberglass. But
then we've got the BMW Z3M Coupe.
Z3 was a convertible originally. They put a roof on it, made it almost into a shooting brake. In fact, it's got a massive boot now. But yeah, basically an E36, an E36 M3 underneath.
So then we've got the BMW Z8.
Bond car. And one of the best looking BMWs ever built. Not a very good... What?
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan's
was it?
car.
Ah, yeah. Very awesome car. Wasn't that good really, but just the way it looks, sensational. And it had the M5 E39's power plant. So it's my favourite M5 with the best looking body. Yeah. So...
Yeah, then we've got the BMW 2002 Turbo.
Or the 2002 Turbo, but I don't really know. It's basically the same thing. It's got nothing to do with the year 2002 either.
It's released years before, wasn't it?
70s. Yes. They're very expensive now, and it was... The reason it's on here is because it was a revolutionary car, along with the Porsche 911 Turbo and the Saab 99 Turbo. All three of them were the first mass-produced sports cars with turbos. Now, the first ever one was the Chevy Corvair, but it was one of the worst cars ever made. Genuinely one of the worst ever. So what we do is we discount the existence of that death trap, which is unsafe at any speed, is how it was described, and we count that the 2002, the 930, 911 Turbo, and the Saab as the three first turbos.
Yeah. So then we've got the finally wrapping up BMW. Is the BMW 3.0 CSL.
3 litre CSL, gorgeous car, absolutely stunning. Grand Tourer, 200 horsepower, pretty rapid, very good looking one as well. Which wraps up BMW.
Indeed it does.
We're nearly onto the C's.
So now
some fast ones now.
Yeah, so then we've got the B Engineering Idonis.
You might look at me and go, "What the f in hell is that?"
Yeah.
Right. Basically, you get a bit Bugatti EB110. You take the V12 out the back, take the 4 turbos off, increase the capacity to 3.8 litres.
Okay.
I think it was 3.8, 3.9. You then replace those 4 turbos with 2 turbos. You increase the power by about 80, so you've got 680 brake horsepower. You stick it back in a car that looks better, basically with the underpinnings of the EB110, but much better looking. And you create a 227 mile an hour manual gearbox, turbocharged rear-wheel drive supercar from 2001. Basically.
Yeah.
And it's a German car. German design that. But it's flipping awesome. Turbo lag meant that 0-60 wasn't the best, but that's how it is.
Then we've got the Bristol Fighter T.
Which you will all know about if you know me, but if you don't know what it is, basically, British Grand Tourer, which featured an 8 litre V10 in the early starts, which is from the Dodge Viper. Had a manual gearbox. It started off with 525 horsepower, but Bristol thought, I know we've ended up getting this engine, which normally produces 400 to upwards of 500 and a 210 mile an hour car, but we don't think that's enough. So they thought, right, let's increase the power. So they did to 660, improve the aero and stuff, so that the Bristol Fighter S could do 240 miles an hour nearly. They then thought, nah, that's not enough. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
We are going to have to file bankruptcy, but let's go out with a bang, shall we? Let's go out with a bang. So what they did, got the Bristol, stuck 2 turbos on, and in 2006, they released the Bristol Fighter T with 1,017 brake horsepower, which is 16 more. Well, actually a lot more than 16 more than the Veyron, which comes next, because that has 987. And they created the Bristol Fighter T. Now, for safety reasons, electronically limited to 225 miles an hour, but it's theoretical, which is easily achievable with the drag coefficient that's so low on that car in the under aero, which keeps it stuck to the floor. It could do 270 miles an hour.
What?
Pity that they went bankrupt before they could test that.
So then we've got the Bugatti Veyron 16.4.
Now, I don't like hypercars. I don't like supercars either. I don't really like them much, but there are a few on here, and the reason there are is because they're different or because they were revolutionary. Now, the Veyron was the first ever car to exceed 400 kilometres an hour, 248 miles an hour. 987 brake horsepower or 1,001 metric horsepower. And it's a Veyron. Now, the thing is with the Veyron is, I didn't used to like it because I thought it was overrated. Yeah. And everyone was like, oh my god, it's fast car was a Veyron, when it wasn't. The thing is now, though, is because the shifts move away from the Veyron isn't looked upon anymore, really. Nobody goes, the Veyron's very not that known. Well, it is. But in a sort of way, people don't really give a toss about it anymore because the Citroën exists. Yeah. And there's hypercars from other brands that are way faster than that now. I mean, 253 is a lot. But in the modern world, when we've got nearly 300 miles an hour, it's not that high. And the reason is, I think the Veyron looks better than the Citroën anyway. In a sort of way, I like the way the Veyron looks. But it's the fact that it's a piece of history. It was the Concorde moment in the automotive industry that changed the world. And I like them for that. But I wouldn't have a Citroën. That's the only Bugatti. Oh, no, it's the one of 2 Bugattis I would own.
Because the other one here is the Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic.
Yep, classic, really old, 1930s, really expensive. Slow, but God, it looks good.
Yeah,
hey, we're on to the C's.
Yeah. So we finished
very
these.
few muscle cars on here, by the way.
Yeah. So now we've got the Cadillac CTS-V.
Yes, the modern one, 200 mile an hour, 640 horsepower manual, rear drive, saloon, pretty cool. I think then we go on to the CTS-V wagon, 2011.
Yep.
So, not as fast, still does 191 miles an hour. Very fast though.
Yep. Then we've got the Chevrolet Corvette C2 Stingray.
Yep, so the first proper Corvette that they did. I know they did the C1, which was rubbish, but I like the C2. Other than that, no more muscle cars really.
Yeah. Then we've got the Citroën C6.
Yeah, I think the last properly good-looking Citroën. It's where Citroën went down now after they scrapped that. I mean, now releasing the C5X, which is like a big saloon, which looks alright, but since the C6, they've not released anything that good-looking. And it's very niche. I mean, you could have an Audi or a Merc or a Beamer for some price, but none looks as good. Look really cool.
Yeah. Then there's the Citroën AX GT.
Me and Luke were having a laugh the other day about this car because they are so rare. It was like, I don't believe that they exist anymore. Now, if I see one and it's an AX GT, I'm just going to pretend that they've been crayon the badge on. Yeah. I was like, I know, because they're so rare now. They're nearly extinct, the AX GT, which is very sad because they were fucking brilliant little cars back in the day, and they still are. So I would try my best to try and save one of them before they go extinct, but it's going to be soon that they do, unfortunately.
Then we've got the Citroën SM.
Gorgeous piece of design. Very good car, Citroën SM. 2CV6 next.
Citroën 2CV6.
Don't kill me, because they're not very good.
Weird cars to choose for.
The thing is, they were revolutionary in cheap transport. Did the same as the Beetle. Cheap transportation. All you need to run around a city. I would like to add one on, which it might come down later on.
Go on.
If we don't come across it at this moment, I'd have a DS. You know, the old DS21, DS23, faster one. Because they were brilliant cars. But just in case it comes later on, I'll just slot it in there. Yeah,
then we've got the Cizeta.
Yeah.
V16T.
Yep, so I believe this was an American car, I can't remember though. the top of my head, but it was a sporty supercar, 204 mile an hour. But what's different about this car is its engine. It's a V16, which we haven't really seen before in cars, except from the old Cadillacs from the 20s. So one of the very few V16 cars ever built. Very cool car. Looks quite good as well.
Then we've got the Cupra Formentor VZ5.
Yeah, one of the very few SUVs I'd actually own. But this is different because Cupra make a very good car anyway. The Formentor is a very cool car in general. But they stuck Audi's 5-cylinder in it so Cupra Formentor VZ5, 5-cylinder, 385 horsepower-ish. Pretty quick. And I do like it. It's a cool car. So, we're going to do some different parts because it's getting very long. We didn't realise how long it would take.
Yes.
I didn't realise there were that many. Am I sad or what?
Yeah.
But genuinely, this is if I was Jay Leno, which I would never own that many cars in my life.
Yes, exactly.
We'll do a video on something like that at a later date. But I hope you enjoy this sort of new content.
Yes.
We're going to start doing this a bit more. We're going to start the podcast. We did actually do one, but we're going to get rid of it. Start again from scratch. Because it's more fun. But we do hope you enjoyed part 1 of which was A to C.
Yeah, the end of C.
Was it the end of C?
Yes, that was the end of C. Yeah.
So next is going to be D onwards. We don't know what that's going
we
to
don't
be
know where
to,
that'll get to because again we didn't know how long this was. We thought we could get all the way to Z in this, but considering we've now gone on for longer than an hour, just on A to C.
But we do have the lesser complicated stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, we did have things. We did have the
I think BMW and Alfa.
Yeah,
the big ones.
BMW and Alfa are quite big.
And Aston. Had the really 3 huge brands that have made some awesome cars over the years.
Exactly. So,
but,
I mean, you can't blame us, blame the car brands. So that's how this works.
Yeah, essentially. But what do you think of the list? Comment below, which was if you had a particular favourite. This video will be in chapters actually, by the way, because of obviously it's not that long in the different cars, so you can see the list. Which was your favourite? I want to know. Comment below.
Is there any cars that you'd add? You know,
anything you would add.
What cars? Are you, like, you know what I mean? If you're thinking on the same training line as us, what cars, are you thinking? Oh, I wouldn't mind adding that actually. Oh, I'm surprised you've missed that one out because I think that's quite good. You know what I mean? Things along that line.
Yeah, I would like to know what you guys think. Obviously, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Smash it. Put the notification bell on.
Yes.
And we will release every part of this video consecutively.
Yes.
So every part will be consecutive. We won't have videos in between. So it will be like a full week of videos.
Yeah, and obviously, I believe they'll all be in a playlist and everything. So you can literally go onto the end screen or whatever. It's all there, don't you worry. So you can just check it out.
As I said, if you notice in my current videos, I do have the pop-up banner active. I did say previously, if you want to know the difference between metric and immetric brake horsepower figures, you can do that. I have a video. Click up there. Also, while you're at it, you can visit my model rail channel up there as well, in case you are interested in model railways, because we've part-time suspended videos of model railways on this channel. It'll be more of a monthly update. When locos come.
So just
you won't miss out.
In that
but if you just want trains, go and visit that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We've enjoyed this.
Indeed.
Very fun, and we'll see you very soon for some more videos. Take care of yourselves.
Goodbye.